It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book on the first Friday of 2024. I'm Jeff Parles. Happy to be with you. Chris Andrews will be along, but I do have my good friend, the Hall of Famer himself, the man with the great hair, our guy, Vinny Magliulo. How you doing?
What do you say, Jeff? How are you?
Good to see you as always.
Always good to be with you. Chris will be along in a little bit. He's on a conference call right now. You know, there's
I know. Yeah,
we have to do
stuff.
stuff.
He's a busy man.
Yes,
There's a lot going on, especially
we're trying to
this
keep
time
up
of
with.
the year.
We're trying to keep up and be as busy as Jimmy Vaccaro.
Well, Jimmy, as you said, is already.
He's at his afternoon briefing
I was going to say he's in a session right now.
in Chambers.
Yes, in Chambers, exactly. Yes. Oh, you know what? Instead of an old school wig, it's the white hoodie. That's what it is.
Oh yes, you know some judges have a robe. Jimmy's got a hoodie.
So
the greatest.
last night was the first Thursday without NFL football. We get 2 games tomorrow. We got a full card. We'll get to those. Don't worry about that. I want to start us off. We had a little bit of this conversation yesterday, and we can continue this now. And then when Chris comes in, we'll continue it with him as well. College football national championship game. Houston, Texas decide. Washington, number 2, against number 1, Michigan. 4.5 right now, Vinny. 56.5. You touch 5 on the second for, as you would say, a blink of an eye.
A blink, yes.
And it went back to 4.5. It stayed put there now for 3 days since that last move back to 4.5. Total at 56.5. Again, this is a matchup that no one expected before the year. What was the peak you guys had on Washington in the futures market? That'd have been like 50 to 1, right?
Actually, it might have been more, and I'll get the sheet out. I can retrace it, but there were. Yeah, 50 was. I think you probably could have even gotten it a bit higher. Let's remember that the Pac-12 was not, as a conference, was not rated particularly high outside of Oregon. So no real surprise with Oregon. Washington we knew was good, but not, especially because of Michael Penix. But the entire conference surprised when you think about it, right, John? We talked about it. How strong the Pac-12 in its swan song year wound up being. Better than. When I say better, what I mean by that is higher rated, because we do not only have a rating for teams, power rating for teams, you rate the conferences as well. It was actually stronger than the ACC, and to some extent, even the Big 12. Outside of a couple of teams, but from top to bottom, as good as a rating as you're going to see in terms of a conference. So, but look. Now, I think there was still some question marks, maybe some doubt, and for Washington. Full disclosure, I made the biggest adjustment on Washington after the Texas game for the reasons I outlined yesterday, and that was because of what they did with Texas, because of their body work, because of everything they did going up to it, and then when Penix in particular and that offensive line did what they did against a very good, technically sound and stronger, bigger and physically stronger Texas defensive line, but to me it was like, okay, enough's enough, and adjusted it by 4 points and for me, because going into that game probably had it about a 9. Had the title game much higher, about 9. We were even talking last week. Could it have touched double digits? So
not going to be that now.
No, I mean I still had it 6, but didn't hang at 6 because it only would have guaranteed one-way money. So opened 4 here at South Point, went to 4.5, went to 5 quickly, and that's interesting about the 5, Jeff, because 4.5 and 5 are basically the same number.
Right.
And so the fact that it was grabbed, and that's professional money, grabbing it at 5, really told us quite a bit. Now, a lot's going to happen during the course of the weekend. Of course, the NFL card is going to go to it. Particularly, there'll be other multi-sport parlays going to it, but especially the NFL card on Sunday will be going to it, and then Monday will be just a monster handle. And again, just like the two semifinals, this game will be bet very, very strongly by both professionals and the public, and a full schedule of proposition bets.
Where do you think this closes?
You know what, Jeff? I don't even want to speculate. It wouldn't surprise me, and this is just not hedging at all. Wouldn't surprise me if it goes back up. Wouldn't surprise me if it comes down. I mean, right? I mean, you could make a case for both teams. I don't think there'll be this huge swing either way, but would it surprise me if it closes at 6? Not really. Would it surprise me if it closes back to the opening number of 4? Or possibly 3.5. That wouldn't shock me either way, honestly.
Feels like 4 would probably be the low. It'll maybe touch 3.5 for a blink, and then.
If it does, it won't be quick. Yeah,
we don't know. Like,
yeah,
we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, just book it.
3 days.
That's what that's it. You book it, and you see now. There's other factors going into it too. I think we're in pretty good shape. Future wise, and when Chrissy gets in here, he'll break that down. But the that's the thing from a bettor's perspective too. Where do you stand from your? Do you have any futures? Do you have any props? Did you have any? Remember we had props. Up, we had the groupings, and I'll get to that in the next segment. We can break down, how we broke down, the various teams, and certainly how that gets impacted too. So it's fun to book these kinds of games. I have to be honest with you. Still gives us a little jump, a little juice. Besides the vigorous juice.
Well, I mean, this as you said with the two semifinals, it's. Mm-hmm. Same deal as an NFL playoff game.
I'd rather book this game than most of the card on Sunday.
Well, I'm sure for the
at least we know who's
all
playing.
Over the place week 18.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is same deal as what we'll see next weekend, Super Wild Card weekend in the NFL, and.
Well, at least with Wild Card weekend, you know that whoever's healthy is going to play, right? I mean, it's not now we've got a pretty good idea of who's going to play this week, who's not playing, I should say, and those that are question marks, are they going to play at all, and how much are they going to play, because they really don't need to. For instance, Kelsey, right? Kelsey's listed as questionable with his tweaked neck, but does he play at all? Number one, and number two, if he does play, how much does he play? Right? The Ravens, we know that the majority of their starters are not going to play, but those that do. Can't imagine that they're going to go too too far into the game. Same with the Niners. We know about McCaffrey for sure, and so you just you have to say you know that the regulars in those cases are not going to play. Whereas next week when it's the playoffs, then whoever is questionable means probable, right? When it comes to the playoffs, and whoever's breathing within reason is certainly going to be on the field.
You would imagine. You would imagine so, Vinny. But
by the way, while we were talking about the college football championship, let's remember we've got the FCS championship too.
I wasn't. Trust me, I was not going to forget
Sunday.
about that.
What Sunday?
Yes, right.
By the way,
right in the middle of the NFL Sunday is ridiculous.
The NFL games, the early games kick off at 10 o'clock Pacific, 10 a.m. Pacific. Of course, the afternoon goes anywhere from I think they're all going to go at 1:25, right? So,
yes.
But you've got Montana and South Dakota State at 11 o'clock. What? It would have been nice to have this game on Monday in the afternoon, right?
Well,
give them a little bit more,
how about any day or
Saturday.
Yeah.
But give these teams the opportunity to be front and center, right? I mean, for viewership, and but anyway, that game South Dakota State from 12.5, late 12.5, late 13, at 13.5 right now, and the total hold it steady at 49.5. So that'll be a fun game to book as well.
For books that had it up, the FCS futures going into this tournament, South Dakota State was anywhere from -140 to -190.
Huge favorite. I told you I had them in my
you had them in the top 30
of my power ratings. Strong program. Very good.
And the weather in their quarterfinal matchup against Villanova struggled. They only won by 11. They needed a block punt mixed in there, and then they shut everything down after that. A nice 59-0 game that wasn't even that close against Albany. Yeah. Boy, what a fun trip that must be from Albany, New York to Brookings, South Dakota.
Climate-wise, I guess it was similar, but just getting there. Although they've had a pretty mild winter upstate.
Albany went Moscow, Idaho, and then Brookings, South Dakota in back-to-back weeks. That's a tough twofer there.
I would imagine they stayed.
Who knows?
You would think.
I would hope. I wouldn't want to make that flight twice.
No,
not one bit. From central New York to the middle of the northern Midwest, I guess, for at least South Dakota. Still right, Ryan? We're counting South Dakota's northern Midwest?
High Plains.
Not the desert plains.
No, not desert plains. No.
Vinny, I want to ask you about some basketball before we get into until we get into the NFL, and we'll talk
college or pro.
How about a little bit of both? You go with that?
We'll
start with the pro side of things before we get to the college.
Big slate tonight.
Yeah, a huge card in the NBA. There's also a really good college game that we'll get to a little bit later as well. Or at least one really good team in college playing. I don't know if we would count UConn and Butler as a really good game, but Illinois Purdue's pretty good, but it's not a close spread tonight. But going to the association, I'll just ask you this now, where we have about 2 months of the season down.
Mm-hmm.
We have the in-season tournaments done. The Lakers, by the way, Frank brought this up on his show. The Lakers have been genuinely terrible since the in-season tournament.
Well, since ended. they hoisted the
in-season tournament banner.
It wasn't a banner. It was like a plaque or something, whatever it was. Yeah,
might as well have been a plaque. Put it next to Shaq's statue outside. It would have been better. I think
Go ahead, sorry.
They clearly did that because the league asked them to. That's the only reason they did.
All right.
But regardless, I'll just ask you this. Power ratings wise, in this league, Boston is the best record in the NBA. We're nearly halfway home. They're 26-7.
Mm-hmm.
Milwaukee struggled last night. They found a way though to beat the Wembanyama Spurs last night.
They've got some question marks on their schedule, don't they, in terms of results? So go ahead.
So from the East perspective, I would imagine Boston's still number one from the Eastern Conference perspective. Milwaukee's still close behind. And then you have Philly, who's quietly 13 games over 500.
Philly's
3 seed, and then basically everyone's jumbled the bet together.
Orlando,
4 through 8.
Miami. Orlando, a bit of a surprise, right?
I thought Orlando was a capable team. I don't know about avoiding the play-in, but
I was just going to say that what you want to pay attention to in the back of your mind is you mentioned those teams. Who's kind of got a little, I don't know if the word playoff pedigree is, well, I guess you could say it, right? They got some experience, and I think that's going to be a major factor, come next spring. So take that into consideration. Go ahead.
Just looking at the West, Minnesota's the best record in the West.
Again, now which is new.
Yeah, no,
for them, right?
The East is playing out how a lot of people thought.
Yes.
Boston and Milwaukee would be the 2 best teams.
Yes,
just a matter of who would.
Good point.
Who would get the 1 seed?
Right.
If Embiid had a really good year again, Philadelphia would be anywhere from 3 to 5. Right. Embiid has arguably been the MVP of the league so far. Actually, I would argue he's been better this year than he was last year for the first 30 some odd games. And then on the West side, I mentioned the Minnesota's number 1. Oklahoma City's number 2.
Okay, see, another good young team, right?
So you basically now, by the way, the Nuggets also in there on that after that miraculous shot thrown in by Joker.
Which you enjoyed on social media, I saw last
night. I won money on that.
Good for you.
I took the Nuggets at the beginning
of the quarter. Celebrate that. You should celebrate.
No, that was sick.
That shot.
That was sick.
Financially, especially.
All good, regardless anyway there, Vinny. But I'll just ask you this, where The Lakers were projected to be one of the better teams in the West. They're 10th. The Warriors can't hold a big lead.
No.
They would not even be in the play-in game right now. Phoenix is the 9 seed in a Western Conference where a lot of these highly sought after, power-ratedly high teams are near the bottom of the playoff standings or out of the playoffs altogether right now. It's a little bit different from your perspective behind the counter because you have these teams that are upstart. Of course, Denver was expected to be there.
Yes.
But Minnesota and Oklahoma City are upstarts.
No question. And that's a surprise. I think the biggest surprise of all probably is the Warriors and where they sit.
That they're just not that
good.
good.
I think, to me, that's a bigger surprise than Minnesota, honestly, because and OKC, simply because we thought this year they were going to be healthier, did some good things in the offseason. I'm not surprised. The thing about the Lakers, Jeff, we've seen this the last couple of years. They're just so streaky. They're out of sync. And I think with all teams, but especially the Lakers in particular, that lineup on a game-to-game basis, there's too many inconsistencies. With whether it's Davis or LeBron or both. And I think that's so. Basketball, it's that rhythm, right? You need that rhythm, and they just don't seem to be able to sustain it. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way the lineup or the inconsistency of the lineup from on a game to game, or let's say a week to week basis.
From your perspective behind the book, now we go to the other side of the spectrum, the bad team. You had Detroit, who had the historically long losing streak that finally ended against Toronto.
Right.
You have the Wizards, who in most years would be considered just the worst of the worst. Same deal with San Antonio, who's sitting at 5-29. There are two other teams that don't even have 10 wins, 30-plus games into the season.
Yeah.
The bad is as bad as it has been over the last half decade now as well.
And I'm glad you brought that up because, again, we oftentimes hear about, well, your teams should tank. Teams should tank. How long has Detroit been tanking? And how's that working out for them? No, I'm serious. I don't mean to be, but when you think about it, it's. And I've talked about this in all sport from all sports perspective. A team is a product. It's a product that is directly reflective of management, which is ownership, right? I mean, how many draft picks, how many trade deadline moves, and how much draft capital and stock draft picks that are stockpiled? You still have to make them work, and you've got to have a good coach and coaching staff. So what is happening with Detroit? We've been talking about this with Detroit for how long now? Because that streak goes back to the last couple of years. The streak, I should say, from last year, right? But we've been saying the same thing. So when you hear about teams should tank, these are people still fighting for their jobs and everything. But what has tanking gotten? Again, these particular teams that we're talking about, Detroit in particular, right?
Well,
nothing.
The Pistons,
the same result.
The Pistons have been stuck in this cycle of just bad basketball. And look, they get Cade Cunningham, who's the only guy who's played well on this team this year.
Okay.
With that top pick. But look, again, when you go through what they just went through, which was historic disaster.
Brutal.
Look, it's tough to pick up the pieces. And for Monty Williams, who probably should never have been fired in Phoenix, he just has to be thinking, why did I do this to myself? Why did I take this job when I could have had one or two other good jobs?
Well, you know what? Remember this. When it comes to the Suns, a couple of years ago, they were a very popular team. They first of all, they were a terrific second half team, right? That a couple of years back, right? I think it was 2 or 3 years back when they wound up going deep into the playoffs. They were still a significant long shot for the conference and the title around this time of year. And then they gained momentum, and then people started to play them, and we had some serious exposure on the Suns a few years ago. Well, they made some deals after that, too. that really they haven't panned out when you think about it, right? I mean, so DeAndre Ayton, who really was, I thought, a pretty important part of that team, and when they traded him, and I'm not saying that's the only reason, but there were moves that they made that have not worked out and have not panned out, and so again, management has to realize that and make the difference. But the hires have to come high to get the results on the product level, if you will.
Yeah,
right?
no, and look, for Phoenix, the big three guys, they haven't been healthy at all times this year.
Yeah. Health is a big part of it.
And when they've been on the court, they haven't been as good. Their depth was always a question going into the year. Again, Phoenix right now 9th in the Western Conference. Just going to tonight, Vinny, are there any games that the bettors have taken a liking to here as we get about 2 hours away from those early tips?
I think when you look, Jeff, they've taken the Hawks. The game opened 3.5. The game is down to 2 against the Pacers. I'm sorry, down to 3. There's some 2.5s out there, so some support for the Hawks. When you look, the other part is during the course of the day, what happens is you're going to get alerts. When I say alerts, there are messages that are going to come across about who's questionable or who's out or whatever the case may be, and all of a sudden there's a major shift in the numbers, which I wish the NBA did a much better job of that. And frankly, it's to the point where sometimes you've got to take the games off the board until you get a better read as to who's going to be in or out, whatever the case may be. You
mentioned that Indiana, Atlanta one real quick.
Yeah,
total's 262.
Well, look at these totals. I mean, these are old. Here I'll date myself again. I won't wait for you.
No need.
These are ABA totals anymore.
Oh wow, there we go.
All right, but that's also, in all seriousness, the way the game is played today. Not as strong defensively. There's certainly no Bill Laimbeer style Pistons out there, and of course the propensity for not only guards but forwards / centers. I don't even think they call them centers anymore, right? They call everybody's either a guard or a forward these days. Going to the perimeter and launching threes, right? When you've got 7-foot players that are more inclined to, or as inclined to take a three as get the ball in the paint, I think that is definitely indicative and reflective of the totals that we're seeing. So another game. Let's see, the Timberwolves. You mentioned the Timberwolves earlier. Minnesota's up to 4. They opened 3, so a little bit of support there. But let's look at these late games, because I was just talking to the staff about this week. So the last 2 games in particular, actually the last 3 with the Kings, but the last 2 games, because the Lakers, this is always a Laker town. Everybody's going to wait to see what happens with the lineup tonight and who's in and who's not, of course. The Lakers, right now, there was support for the Grizzlies, but I can assure you as we get to this evening, there'll be support for the Lakers. And the Warriors, which in recent years have become as public a team as any, they're up from 9.5 to now 10.5. I think we're going to probably see 11. Those games will likely go up because they've got a carryover going to them. We oftentimes talk about the carryover in the NFL for that primetime game. Well, it's the same principle here on a daily basis with the NBA, and you'll see support so there'll be carryover, but then just general support for both of those teams, especially when they're home. When their games are late, it's just about guaranteed that there's support for them. Or and then if there's professionals out there watching it and they want to go against them, they know they're going to get a premium, a really good price going against them as well. So those games there will draw plenty of attention. There'll be plenty of line movement there as we get closer to tip-off tonight.
Still on your ABA remark.
Oh, yeah.
The Virginia Squires and the Pittsburgh Condors, right?
The Virginia Squires, which I believe that was Julius Erving's first team out of UMass.
Then to the New York Nets
at
the time.
To the Nets, which, by the way, that 76 Nets team is a major reason for the merger. Remember, so if you look,
I wouldn't know. I wouldn't remember. If you
read about the history or you look up the history, that was the year the Celtics, they won. I think that was the year they beat the Suns in that great that classic final. And there was a lot of push by fans and basketball junkies to get those two to play each other. The 76 Nets and the 76 Celtics to play each other for the true championship. It didn't happen, but certainly the merger occurred not too long after that. But that 76 Nets team was a terrific team, really good team.
Oh, I mean, when you have Dr. J.
Larry Keenan was on that team, John Williamson, Billy Paltz, Al Skinner.
Well, the
good team.
The one thing that I will bring up
played at the beloved Coliseum, which you were in.
I've been to games at the Coliseum. Yeah. I will say this: the best ABA related story though has to be the Marvin Barnes story.
Oh, what with the tire iron?
No, with the they were playing a game in Louisville. St. Louis was, and
the Spirits,
who
I think the owners are still getting paid.
They are.
By the way,
they still are.
Right?
It's a great doc if you haven't seen it.
Great investment.
So he refused to board the flight back to St. Louis from Louisville because the arrival time in St. Louis, because they're in different time zones, the flight was supposed to leave Louisville at 12:05 Louisville time and land in St. Louis at noon.
This is a good. You're right.
And
I forgot.
Barnes said, "quote I ain't getting in no damn time machine," and rented a car instead to go back.
Yeah,
it's not a bad drive. It's about a 5.5 hour drive, but still, the classic, the classic. Oh man, Chris Andrews is here.
Hi, Chrissy.
Hello. How you doing,
buddy? I'm doing okay.
Doing okay. As we know, busy man as you are. So we opened the show talking about the college football championship game, and
both games.
We want to, yes, both games. Yes. How could I forget? Right smack dab in the middle of the NFL card. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So you're sitting at 4.5 on this game, and Vinny brought this point up yesterday, and I'm just curious what you did in your own rankings. Vinny, yesterday you said what? Adjusted 4 points on Washington after that win against Texas on Monday night. How did you adjust Washington after, again, now 14-0 and a win in the college football semifinal game?
Well, I had that game against Texas at a pick'em.
Okay.
So I didn't have that big of an adjustment to make. So my original power ratings came to Michigan 3, but I didn't like some of the injuries that occurred on Washington. So I actually made the game 4, which is what I made it, which is what I opened it. And I still think that's a pretty good number. I'll tell you what the betting pattern's been so far, very much like a Super Bowl. Laying me the points and taking the money line.
There we go.
And I had dinner with one of Michael's partners last night, and I had lunch with Michael today. So let's just hope that pattern keeps up, because we got 1, 2, 3 working for us, and 4 ain't so bad either.
So I'm happy you brought that up with Super Bowls, because as a lot of people know, they'll just, like you said, they'll bet you on the money line with the dog. They'll lay the points with the favorite, and the favorite winning but not covering is usually a great result.
Great thing. It's funny, and I know a lot of guys watching now have read Billy Walters' book.
Of course.
And Billy talks about one of his worst beats, and it was kind of funny because I know Billy a little bit. I don't know him super well, but I know enough to joke with him. One of his worst beats, when I think he still wound up winning the game, he had Arizona against Pittsburgh. But when I think he had a first half bet too, and when James Harrison ran that back.
Rumbling, stumbling.
So I had met some guys that are doing a documentary on Billy. I told him it was kind of funny with me. I'm getting off kilter a little bit here, but that touchdown was huge because I also had, will there be a score in the final 2 minutes of the first half? But of course, the point I wanted to get to is I found a really cheap money line on Pittsburgh. And I liked Pittsburgh. I didn't love them. I liked Pittsburgh that day. I think they were like a 6-point favorite. I think I laid like about 210.
Pretty good.
And they should be like 250, 260 in that range, something like that. I laid 210. And conversely, I found another great price on Arizona plus 10.5. And again, watch those. And, I know there's a lot of guys out there, you always want to create value for yourself. So I think I laid like about $1.70 or something like that and took Arizona plus 10.5. It wound up being one of my best Super Bowls of all time. And I think Billy wound up, no matter what, Billy's doing okay. You don't have to worry about Billy too much.
That was during the run where we just continually got great Super Bowl after great Super Bowl.
That's one of the greats.
I think that is the greatest, personally.
Yeah.
The winning
year before,
catch.
Yeah, I mean, that was such an accurate throw by Roethlisberger.
It's insane.
To hit Santonio Holmes in the corner of the end zone with 3 defenders kind of right there.
It's pretty funny that one of the best games in the history of the NFL features the Cardinals, which a franchise that can't seem to get out of its own way. But hey,
they had a little blip in their history where they were pretty good.
That's
and another thing to bring up.
Yeah,
they looked like they were going to win a very weak division, and we saw that probably from about week 12 or so on. And everybody was saying, "Oh, I can't wait to bet against the Cardinals in the playoffs. I can't wait to bet against the Cardinals in the playoffs." I'm just telling you, be careful. That would be my caveat to everybody.
Yeah, that was
every game's a little different.
They beat Atlanta with Matt Ryan as a rookie.
I can't remember.
They beat Jake Delhomme when Delhomme imploded, a 5-interception game.
That I do remember.
And
Kurt Warner was the quarterback.
Yeah,
right?
Kurt Warner was the quarterback for Arizona, and then they beat Philadelphia in a 4-6 because that was the year the Giants were the best team in football. Plexico Burress shot himself in the leg in a nightclub.
Yeah,
as we all
leg. Is that what we're calling it now? The leg,
wherever you want to you want to say. Goodness, that was it's an interesting year to say the least. All right, I want to go real quick to college hoops before we go to just some housekeeping on the futures book that we said we would get to, because there are 2 good games in college hoops tonight. One of them features UConn. Yeah, I know Butler's not the greatest of teams, but it's a Big East Conference game. At Hinkle.
Yep.
So difficult place for UConn to play. They're sitting 5-point favorites right now. And then the other one is Illinois is playing Purdue in West Lafayette. Of course, Illinois will still be without Shannon, who is still suspended for the legal issues in Lawrence, Kansas that he is facing right now. That's 10.5, which is a big, big number.
Yeah. They laid 10.
Oh, I know they did. They laid the 10, but 10.5 still is a big number. And I know Purdue's awesome, but that Illinois team, even without Shannon that first time out, looked all right in their big win against FDU, who we as well know tie it all in. FDU, Purdue, they're linked forever now, Chris.
Yeah. I remember the days when we would have Ivy League games on Friday, and
those are coming. Don't worry.
Well, that was it. All we had was Ivy League games,
and put the overnights up on.
We put Saturday. The overnights up on Saturday. Those are 2 pretty good conference games. And, Connecticut, they're going to be right there again, I think. And Purdue, I don't know if they're the favorite, but they're certainly among the favorites right now to get. Where is the Final Four this year?
Is it back in San Antonio again?
Not Las Vegas.
No. It's in Glendale.
It's in Glendale. Arizona?
It's in Arizona.
Glendale, Arizona?
It's in Arizona.
Okay. Yeah. But I think they have a great chance of getting there. But it's, pretty there's a lot of teams up at the top with a pretty good chance. But they're certainly one of them.
Yeah, it is in Arizona this year. So they're
UConn Butler money showing here. Not real. The thing about it is when you look at these home teams, especially these home dogs in conference games, they know they're on national TV. They're gonna go again. They're going against the national champs, which always gives them extra incentive. Look, you see it in any sport. So not a real surprise here that they took the 6 and the 5.5 and going with Butler. And let's remember this for this year. Next year it'll go back to the Power 5. In college basketball, there's a Power 6 conferences because the Big East is
the Big 6. Yep.
Is as good as any of the others. So, and of course this year with Connecticut and as the defending national champs. So, And then in the other game, they laid to 10 with Purdue and 10.5. I've actually increased Purdue. I like what Purdue is doing. They've got a stronger vibe to them this year so far than what I've seen in recent years. And I think you remember a few years ago, I think it was 2019 when Virginia won the national championship in 2019 after being the first team, the first number one seed
UMBC.
that got beat in the first round by a 16 seed. And I kind of get the sense, and I'm not anointed Purdue as the national champion by any means, but I get a similar vibe out of this team after what they've
big favorite.
Not done in the last couple of years.
Big favorite last year.
So,
that was one of the big upsets of all time.
And they keep getting support in the futures everywhere you look. So
they have looked every bit the part this year. Their only loss is that overtime game to Northwestern, where sometimes some conference teams just have your number, and Northwestern's had their number.
And Northwestern shot higher than the '85 Villanova team against Georgetown in Rupp Arena.
There we go.
So,
look at this.
Were you alive at that time?
No, I wasn't.
Jeez, at Christmas.
You weren't alive at that time?
Not even 85?
No.
Jeez.
What year were you born again?
Do I keep my job?
Yeah, you can.
93.
93?
I'm 30. Yeah. My uncle was at that game at Rupp Arena. I know that.
So
he has
were
the
we.
Program for it.
So were we. He might have bet with us. Oh, I mean, from a just a friendly perspective.
I before we get to the NFL slate this week, Vinny, you brought it up, so we'll just bring this up here with Chris in now. Futures book, college football wise.
Mm-hmm.
How does it end up? I would imagine, regardless of result, not terrible, right?
Nah, with Washington, we do good. With Michigan, we do great.
Okay.
But right now, we'll see because we got all that money line play on Washington. So we got a little cushion going in, but not much of one. But we'll see.
And then the groups, because Vinny just jogged my memory.
Yeah.
Where was Washington?
They were in one of the groups.
They were in group the first group. They were with Georgia, Penn State, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin.
I mean, if you took that just to get Georgia and some more teams, you ended up with
you had the big dog and a bunch of also-rans, which
and Michigan was in with SC, LSU, Clemson, Texas, and Utah.
Oh, so if Texas had won on Monday night, we wouldn't. This would already be settled.
Yeah. And actually, we're in good shape with that. Mm-hmm. We used the exacta. We're in good shape with the exacta.
Yeah.
So we had 3 different futures going into this one. Good shape all the way around.
Yeah, I would imagine more than anything that Bama getting KO'd probably was even better than Texas going out.
Yeah, and then Georgia earlier. We had a lot
Georgia
of Georgia
obviously
money,
already gone. Yeah. Florida State futures gone.
Yeah, we didn't have that much on Florida State. That was a team I liked from the beginning of the year, and I think I had the right idea. They just kind of got an unlucky break at the end.
What are you going to do? Quarterback got hurt, looked bad in 2 games they won, and then they lose by 60 when everyone sits out the orange.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. All right, I want to hit these 2 Saturday games before we take our first break of the show. The Steelers, here they are with an opportunity. They need some help, but first things first to them. They need a win on Saturday to at least keep their playoff chances alive to Sunday. Steelers are 3-point favorites on the road in Baltimore. Ravens already have the 1 seed locked up. None of the big guys are playing in this game on both sides of the ball. No Lamar, Odell Beckham, Ryan and company on the show earlier. That with the incentives, Odell Beckham's not playing. We know that. They signed Dalvin Cook today, so he might get the bulk of the carries for them on
week 18. They're signing people.
Yeah,
you gotta love it.
And then, Chris, we actually already saw this year. Pittsburgh won the previous matchup in this series in week 4 in a game that Baltimore found a way to lose more so than anything. Right. 3. They have bet you down from 3.5. I'm not really surprised that people came in and took the hook in this one.
Well, I had 4 for a while. And I remember when I opened with the market, listen, this week is very tough for bookmakers.
Oh, yeah.
And throw your bookmaking fundamentalist hat in the fire for this week because it ain't going to work. So I opened 4 just to be with the market. But I remember saying at the time, and I told my guys, there's no way Pittsburgh should be 4 over this team. I don't care who's out there for Baltimore. you named a bunch of guys who won't be there, but everybody who will be out there, they do not want to lose to Pittsburgh. And I could guarantee you John Harbaugh does not want to lose to Pittsburgh either. He's doing the smart thing. He's resting his starters. I mean, Harbaugh said for many, many years, I think he's probably the second best coach in the NFL. With the demise of Bill Belichick, I might have to revise some of those ratings. But I think Harbaugh does a great, great job. He will have the players that are out on the field motivated for this game. And I got to tell you, even at 3, I don't think I would take the Steelers. I would take the Ravens or pass. I think it's going to be a really, really tough game. Listen, once they kick off, I'm going to be rooting for the Steelers. Everybody knows that. But my objective hat is on as a bookmaker. And, well, I'll tell you what, it'd be very, very hard for me to bet Pittsburgh in this game.
Tyler Huntley.
Huntley will start.
Under center here for the Ravens. I think Chris's point's spot on. I mean, Harbaugh, all he's going to talk about is the fact that they lost that first game. Yeah. So you're asking the Steelers to win, to sweep the season series with the Ravens. One of the better home field advantages in the league in Baltimore. But all of that aside, I think points are at a premium. We oftentimes talk about it, and here we are, week 18, and the Steelers obviously are playing for a playoff spot. The thing to keep in the back of your mind, though, is the fact that the Ravens, by resting everybody, they're going to rest for 3 weeks, what amounts to 3 weeks, which when their first playoff game comes, that they're going to have to spend at least the first quarter getting back into a rhythm. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And the same goes for the Niners. 3 weeks without it's certainly going to practice, but without a game, that's just something to tuck away for future handicapping purposes. And
I've seen that work both ways. The teams come out stale after the break, and teams that don't. And I forget what year it was, the year the Saints beat the Colts.
2009.
Oh, that long ago? Yeah. You were alive then, right?
That was a close Jets.
Oh, I hear some chuckling from behind the counter.
Those guys weren't.
Ryan might have been 4.
Jeez.
9.
9, okay. Anyway, both those
it's
two
like being
teams.
in daycare in here.
Yeah, I know. Both those teams had the number 1 seed wrapped up going into the final week and did kind of the same thing, and both wound up in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I've seen, to Vinny's point, I've seen other teams, like we mentioned, and I'd have to go back and look, the year the Cardinals made the Super Bowl as a 4 versus 6. So somewhere along that line, that number 1 seed got beat.
Giants got beat by the Eagles. But that was a weird
But then the Giants won the Super Bowl as a wild card.
Well, the year before, they won it
as a wild card. So there's crazy stuff, Gap. Yeah. So every game is different and every situation is different. But it's hard to get locked into one thing and say this is the way it is. So I just want to give out that.
Especially,
but I do have a question, and Jeff, either you or Vinny might know better than I do. I probably should know this, and I'm almost embarrassed to ask. Nobody gets automatically in with a Pittsburgh loss, do they?
So Buffalo would be clinched.
Okay, but
there's a playoff spot, but not the
playoff.
They're
spot.
still playing.
They're playing for the division.
They're playing because they're going to put the difference.
They want to host a game.
Yeah, I mean,
they're still playing. Regardless.
There's a huge difference between the 2 and the 7, which would what it would be if Buffalo lost and Pittsburgh lost. But actually, no, Buffalo would have to be clinched because. Now,
I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not worried about Buffalo.
Regardless,
I'm not worried about Buffalo. They're going to be playing.
I think the both games on Saturday though have implications.
Oh, the winner.
I think there's implications, but is anybody in automatically?
I have to double check on Buffalo now because Buffalo doesn't have the tiebreaker on Jacksonville, but I think they do. They do have the tiebreaker on Indy, but not Houston. It's convoluted.
Yeah, they will play hard. They're going to try to beat Miami whether they're in or out.
Well, big difference for having 2 home games or no home.
Well, I'm not worried about Buffalo.
Especially
I'm worried about some of the other
this
teams.
time of year.
So, the winner of the second game's in regardless.
Yes.
And we're going to get there right now because Indy and Houston, as we all expected, this is for a playoff berth.
Naturally.
2 teams that had win totals of 6.5. 2 teams that have rookie head coaches. Two teams that had rookie quarterbacks. Oh, and by the way, Anthony Richardson played in 3 games this year for Indianapolis, and it's the journeyman Gardner Minshew who has done the bulk of the work here. Chris, this is a favorite flip, though, in this game.
Yeah.
Open Indy won. Now it's Houston won. It's a very interesting handicap game because it is one of the games that really that matters for both teams involved. But it's also a spot that neither of these teams have been in. At least these groups. Yes, Houston won the divisions with Bill O'Brien and Deshaun Watson.
That's a little ways ago.
We know Indy's history, but none of the guys that are there now were when the Colts were always making the playoffs and such. This is I'm very interested to see which team handles the limelight better for teams that, quite frankly, were under the radar this whole year, and here they are. One of them is going to be in the AFC playoffs.
Well, I think the big question is how's C.J. Stroud?
Absolutely.
I think with a healthy Stroud, and you got to figure he's probably healthy. Is he rusty? That would be the question. I think the health is probably
second
okay.
game. Yep.
I think this is probably the correct flip. I think probably Houston should be a very slight favorite. My power ratings would come to about Houston 1 or 1.5 in this game. And even though I did open the other side the favorite, I moved it very, very quickly. As a matter of fact, and I charted all my bets on these because we're just all over the place on a bunch of them. But I do have some money on Houston -1, and I really didn't take anything on the Colts at any price. So I moved it very quickly, and I kind of agree with the number right now, or even maybe Houston -1.5.
To your point, Jeff, about not being in this position, so home field helps the Colts.
Yep.
And then to Chrissy's point, I also think that even though Stroud has missed 2 games, I think the money coming in on the Texans is Stroud over Minshew.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that the Colts are healthier overall, particularly at the skill positions, than the Texans. I would not be surprised if Colts money does show overnight and tomorrow.
Yeah, Pittman's going to be at full strength. Same with Jonathan Taylor. It's a difficult handicap. It really is a difficult handicap. I thought the number should have been picked. So the fact that it's flipped from 1 to 1 kind of shows
basically
that
a pick 'em, right?
You're pretty much
sense.
picking the winner of this.
Exactly,
game,
you are. Look, if Houston wins by 1, so be it. Or if someone buys the half point, Chris, you'll love that.
You only bought it off pick.
No, yeah, only off pick. That's right. Has there been anything on this total? Which 47.5, by the way, guys.
It's open 47, I think, right?
I got one bet on the over 47.
Okay, it's the second highest total of the week. Only Miami Buffalo is a higher total. So.
Well, that speaks to the who's not playing, I think.
There are a lot of bad games this week. And there are a lot of games that should be good that won't be because guys aren't playing.
Right.
So also keep in mind as well, if you're out here in Vegas, I just have to throw my public service announcement out there. When you're looking up at the rotation numbers, because the rotation numbers are always determined earlier before the schedule is made, don't blindly look at the rotation numbers and assume a game is early.
Right.
If it's listed high.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Just make sure you have your sheet. You have your whatever app you may use to whatever your ESPN app to make sure you got a schedule of games and when they're being played. Because the last thing you want to do is look up at 4:51, 4:52 Dallas, Washington, and be like, oh, I like that game. I'm gonna bet it. I'm gonna bet it early, and then wait a second, it's a later one. Or you look at the bottom of it, and it's Carolina and Tampa, which is listed in the normal 4:25 Eastern slot, and be like, whoops, I didn't realize that game was at 10 a.m. So always just remember that every week, but especially here in Week 18.
Yeah.
Make sure you know when the games are going off because the rotation numbers will not match where they're getting played, unlike the rest of the regular season.
Good point.
Very good. And I'm going to back up one more thing. I want to add one more thing about the Pittsburgh game.
Please.
This might be a good opportunity to tease the dog.
Tease the dog.
I mean, you're looking at a total of 35. You tease the dog, you get through 3 and 7. And You may even find a stray 3.5. There's a couple up there. If you can get a 6-point teaser at the right price, get you to 9.5. Might be a pretty good play. I'd be a little more careful teasing the dog in that second game. Not that it's a bad play, but the total's 47.5. Points. Vinny talks about points being a premium. Definitely in the Baltimore-Pittsburgh game. Maybe not so much in the Houston-Indianapolis game. It still might be a good teaser opportunity. You got to love teasing home dogs, I think, when you're teasing up.
Why not? I mean, it's a.
Grab points.
It's also these games. It doesn't matter who's playing. We did see, for what it's worth, when Baltimore got that 1 seed in 2019. I know the teams are different, and Duck Hodges was playing quarterback that day for Pittsburgh, but Baltimore sat all their guys, and they went out and they beat Pittsburgh, who needed the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you need the game, it's no automatic in this league, as we know.
You know it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
again, guys, we talk about teams that are out of it and guys fighting for their jobs.
Mm-hmm.
There's guys on winning teams that are fighting for their jobs as well.
Listen, you're 53rd man on that roster. You're fighting for your job every week.
Yeah,
100%.
So and guys know that this is my time to shine to the coaching staff because I'm going to get playing time here. So absolutely, yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to Sunday. We are going to do the games in rotation number order from the Las Vegas rotation numbers. So just be on the lookout for that when we get back. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
South Point is also proud to provide a variety of relaxing amenities for the guests who want to be pampered. Soak up the sun and let your stress melt away in our lagoon-style paradise swimming pool. A relaxing getaway where you can bask in the desert sun and enjoy seasonal food and bar service poolside. And if you really want to escape, come to Spa Costa del Sur. From couple suites to a co-ed wet area, our spa caters to business and leisure travelers who want to unwind and elevate their senses. A visit to one of our spa's steam, sauna, or whirlpool treatment rooms will leave any guest feeling like they can take on the world. Our gaming amenities include over 60 table games and over 2,600 of the most popular slot and video poker machines. We have penny slots, including the popular Buffalo games, and real machines like Wheel of Fortune, 777s, and Megabucks. If you prefer video poker, try Deuces Wild, Double Double Bonus, or a variety of multi-denomination games. Or try your hand at one of the most popular casino table games in the world, Blackjack. Don't let the game intimidate you. Blackjack, also known as 21, is both easy and fun. And our dealers are always happy to assist. And the best part? Blackjack always pays 3 to 2. Next, check out the roulette tables. Roulette is one of the easiest casino games to learn, and so much fun to play. It's a favorite of both beginners and seasoned players. In addition to blackjack and roulette, our casino pit features over 60 popular table games like Baccarat, Pai Gow Poker, 3-Card Poker, Ultimate Texas Hold'em, and Mississippi Stud. So get out of your room and come join in the fun.
Welcome back in. It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Football Friday. I'm Jeff Parles. Vinny Magliulo is here. Chris Andrews is here as well. Shout out to the crew. Jerry, Ryan, Sean doing great work, as always, in the back. All right. Rotation number order here for these games. So all over the map on the time that these games start. So we're starting with a 1:25 Pacific game that does mean something for the Dallas Cowboys. They're on the road at the Commanders, 13 points. Cowboys favored by 47 a total. Dallas was given a late Christmas gift. Well, actually, they were given 2 late Christmas gifts last week. One from the refs for not knowing what number reported properly.
Right. Yeah.
And then Philadelphia going out and losing outright as a big favorite to Arizona. Dallas wins. They're the 2 seed in the NFC with the chance at 2 home games, which makes a path to the NFC title game pretty plausible for Mike McCarthy and company. Chris, you opened 13.5. They did take it on you, down to 13, total from 46 to 47.
They're even taking a little bit of the 13. And I kind of understand it. Now, I hate voodoo handicapping. I hate that. Well, in this, but this, you can't help but think over the years, this is the kind of game that Dallas has blown. And I don't mean against the number. I mean outright.
Oh, yeah.
And, I still think, did Ron Rivera lose the locker room? I don't think he has. I think a lot of those guys like Rivera. Has he been a great coach? No. I think these guys want to come out and play hard for him. And I got to tell you, this is another one of those cases. I wouldn't take Dallas. I mean, if they were 10, I wouldn't take them. But I think they're ripe for an outright upset. I don't know that I would go that far. I might throw $1 or $2 on the money line if I was betting. But I definitely like Washington plus the points here. I think Dallas maybe filling their oats a little bit, and the way Jerry Jones talks and everything, they're already penciled into the number 2 in their own brain, and they're not there yet. So,
Sam Howell will start for Washington.
Howell is, yeah.
So that is something to at least look at. And Vinny, I had this thought just going through these games this week, and Chris kind of just brought it up. Like, we have seen Mike McCarthy coach teams / Dallas teams, regardless of coach, find a way to blow games like this. And I don't know if they're going to.
Can you say Phoenix? Arizona?
Very good. Well, right now, the Arizona Cardinals are solely responsible for the NFC top teams being in the positions they're in right now. But it just Washington. This is going to be Ron Rivera's swan song.
I think everybody knows.
Like, we know this. He's getting fired tomorrow.
He's as good as fired.
On Monday.
He's as good as fired as could be.
Who knows what the new ownership does? Do they just promote the enemy from within? Do they take a big swing and see if Belichick is interested in coming to Washington after it ends in New England? Who knows? But for this individual game, Vinny, and Chris, I'm surprised you didn't. There was no diminishing returns remark potentially on this game. I think I'm with you. I would definitely not lay 13.
Well, talk about teasing a dog.
Yeah, you could. Up to 19. Why not?
Yeah. You're really courageous. Get a 7-point teaser, get it to 20. You're going to pay a little extra. It might be worth it, but you might not need it.
Might not need it for that one. Washington, 13-point dogs against Dallas. Again, Washington, just I know there's no such thing as NFL tanking. Washington loses, they clinch the second overall pick.
Yeah, but those guys on the field don't care about it.
Oh, I know they don't. I'm just throwing it out there.
Neither does Rivera, because he ain't going to be there either.
No. Rivera should try to win the game to just
the owner.
The draft
owner
position.
wants it.
Yeah.
But
by the way, speaking of diminishing returns, my power ratings would come to 15 on this game.
Okay.
So I think there is a little bit of diminishing of returns already in the number.
By the way, San Francisco last week, even with the diminishing returns, found a way to get there in the end, 27-10. All right. Mm-hmm. Speaking of the Niners, you ready for Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz,
What
guys?
a battle.
Unbelievable.
What a battle.
Ready? The battle of the backups. I will say this. I'm a little surprised that the Rams are sitting there, guys.
Yeah.
Because if they lose and Green Bay wins, the Packers, on the virtue of the game Stafford didn't play this year, where Green Bay destroyed Brett Rippon and won big, Green Bay would move to the 6, and the Rams would move down to the 7, which I know that the Rams' philosophy, we don't care. We'll go in a row. We'll play anyone. That is a progressively harder path to make a run, having to go through, assuming that Cowboys do actually win.
Well, you're saying it's that the Rams are going to play, based on the numbers, right? It's the Cowboys.
I think it is easier for the Rams to go into Detroit with all that hoopla that would come from that game, with Stafford returning to Detroit for the first time in a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
It would be easier to potentially win that game. You also are not automatically saddled with playing the 49ers in a 1-6. Maybe a 7 seed could upset Dallas, and then you might not see the Niners until the title game. But regardless, he's playing Carson Wentz at quarterback. 4 on the Niners, 41 the total. I don't know what to do with this game. I have no idea what I'm getting out of Carson Wentz. No clue.
Games bounce, right, Chris? I mean, 4 down at the lowest 3, back up to 4. I mean,
yeah, it was. The first bet came in plus the 4. I went all the way down to 3 because I had to respect the guy that bet me was a sharp guy. I guess, we all kind of figured Purdy wasn't playing. But then, of course, now we found out that it's going to be Carson Wentz, and that game jumped back up to 4 pretty quick. I'm kind of with you. I hate to say this. I really do. But there's going to be so many of these games this week. I'm saying I just don't know what to do. I'm sorry. I think I did mention that. Did I mention already on the show? Rob Meesh wanted me, or one of these guys. Now it's Patrick Everson. Wanted me to comment on how hard it is to book this week, and I said I just didn't want to. It sounds like I'm, really, because it is hard to book. But I mean, everybody knows.
Well,
every year it's the same. It's hard to book.
You book quicker line movement. I mean, a full point from 4 down to 3 is that's not something you're going to do in week 8.
It doesn't happen.
Your fundamentalist bookmaking thing is out the window.
So no McCaffrey again. How much are the other starters going to play or
Probably
not?
Not much.
Because again, here you have you've got the same thing as the Ravens, right? It's 3 weeks now that they're not going to see action. And again, sure, you heal. So who knows how it's gonna play out? But I don't know. You try. The other thing about these games too is from a bettor's perspective when you're looking at them is you might see some more first half action than game action.
I'm happy you
Jeff,
brought that up.
Thank you.
I'm happy you brought that up because there are some spots
this week. Happy.
There are some spots this week though, and this is not one of them, but we may get to them as we go along.
Yeah.
It sticks in my mind. Last year, Tampa already had the NFC South clinched. Todd Bowles played Tom Brady the whole first half.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bucs were plus money first half. And they were an underdog in the game. They win the first half. Everyone goes out. And Atlanta, I think, outscored them 17-0 in the second half, won the game comfortably. Where if you did that right, you bet Tampa money line first half.
Yeah.
And then you come back with Atlanta in the second half.
Correct.
Laying a price. I think Tampa was up 4 at halftime, and the Falcons were minus 4.5 second half. So you're just betting Atlanta to win the game at that point. So there are plenty of those opportunities.
Yes.
Not this game, but there are going to be other ones potentially on the board, especially one that we'll get to in a little bit.
It's a different bookmaking aspect in many of these games, and it's a different handicapping aspect as well.
Move along. Let's go. We'll save Miami Buffalo for a little later,
Which is the primetime game.
Which is the primetime game.
That's why.
It is
right.
4:55 and 4:56 on your card, but we'll get to that later because I want to get to a few more of these games before hitting the big one. Because I have a feeling some of these games are going to be quick hitters with the way that they are matched up here. New Orleans is 3 against Atlanta. 4:57, 4:58. This is a 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. East, or 1 p.m. Eastern. Well, it might as well be 1 a.m. Eastern.
There's no one. By the way, all the afternoons are 1:25.
Yes,
Pacific,
yes.
right?
It's all 1 East, 4:25 East.
Right.
For Week 18.
Mm-hmm.
Saints would win the division if they win and Tampa loses to Carolina, which I don't know if anyone other than the fans of the New Orleans Saints want to watch the Saints pass this week. Chris, you're 3. We don't know if Heineke's going to be ready for Atlanta, though. He's a game-time decision as of this moment.
This toggled between 3 and 3.5.
Okay.
Wise guys on both sides, depending on which side they liked. But certainly taking a lot of 3.5 on this game, more so than laying the 3. So that's where we are there. Total, they bet me over 41.5, under 42.5. You'll see me at 42 right now. So, again, good two-way action, depending on what side you liked. And looking for the best numbers. That's what I would tell all you bettors out there. If you're going to play this game, make sure you get the right number.
Yeah, I mean, it's from our side. We just don't want, certainly don't want the Saints by 3. They'll be pretty spirited in this one. I mean, and the other thing to remember, you mentioned it. You brought up good points, Jeff, about where things are positioned in terms of the schedule But let's remember the times of the games. The Buccaneers-Panthers game is going to go at the same time. One thing that the NFL has done right in recent years is have the teams that have implications, the results have implications on other teams that they're playing at the same time. And that's important. Chris and I remember the days when we'd have to take off and learned pretty costly that had to be the case. Because if a team in the afternoon, there was a time when, if the team in the afternoon, was impacted by a result in the morning and you left it up, the number could, change drastically. And so some pros, that was something we learned pretty quickly.
I would say this, too. Don't worry so much about who needs the game. Worry about who's in the game.
Correct.
Rather than you look at Baltimore. Okay, obviously they don't need the game. Look to see who's playing in the game.
Yeah.
Look at that rather than who needs the game.
And again, both of these teams are not any good. These Atlanta-New Orleans game, where part of the reason both of these teams, Atlanta technically could still win the division.
Oh, yeah.
They win and Tampa loses, they win the division. So technically this is a game where both teams are alive are alive if Tampa somehow blows that game.
But there's so much interest on the game, right? Look at with the number. Chris. I mean, you look at this game.
My handle this week is through the roof. By the way, if you're feeling especially lucky.
Yeah, go for it.
I got Atlanta 2,000-1 to win the Super Bowl.
2,000-1.
2,000-1.
I need 8,000.
You ain't getting that.
I need 8,000. Not 3, not 4. I need 8.
Yeah, we were. You weren't allowed.
Why don't you just say 10? I mean,
I should have. I might have said 20. Why not?
I might give it to you. Who knows?
Yeah, whatever.
We were talking about a guy. So. Jimmy was talking about a guy who came in and said, you got a lot of good numbers on the board here, but I got 7 plays. I'm going to need about an extra half point. Do you remember Tony Zombo? Tony Zombo?
Classic.
Tony Zombo, he had a game.
A great dice dealer, by the way.
Was he?
Down at the Horseshoe. He was a terrific dice
dealer. Tony came in. He wanted 3.5 on a game. He says, Tony, I'm at 3. I've been 3 all week. I need 3.5. Tony, it's 3. Takes his teeth out to scream at me while he's waving his teeth. And I'm like, let's just say it wasn't. No, Tony, for Christ's sake, I'm not giving you the 3.5 and quit waving your teeth at me and get the hell back over there. And that is God's honest truth. Yeah.
Waving the teeth.
Waving the teeth. They weren't exactly clear of saliva when he pulled them out.
I was going to say,
mouth.
I'm sure it was a wonderful thing to witness.
Oh,
in person,
it was
Chris.
What a pleasure that was.
Tony's and normally he was pretty quiet.
He was pretty. I was
right?
surprised that he went off on me like that.
Yeah.
But he needed that half a point.
That's so good.
I was
That's
down.
so
I
good.
came down. I was down. I came down. Was down the Horseshoe one, and he's in the game. I'm going to buy in. You know what he says? I'll change. What the hell are you doing here? Tony, you come and see me. Go ahead, Jeff.
Oh man, no, it's still the teeth. Goodness. Man. All right, let's keep rolling here. 1:25 Pacific for this one. The Giants and the Eagles, the flailing Philadelphia Eagles, who were given really a great opportunity. Get to the final 3 weeks of the year, handle your business against the Giants twice and the Cardinals, and even with all the problems you're having, you still win the NFC East. Not so fast, my friend.
No. There you go.
Blowing a double-digit lead to Arizona, and quite frankly,
escaping the Giant game.
But quite frankly, Kyler Murray doesn't throw that pick 6 in the first half. Arizona might win that game going away next week.
Right.
With the way that played out.
Good, Jeff.
So Tyrod is going to start for the Giants.
Yes.
As of now, the Eagles are playing their guys. I'm not so sure that if Dallas doesn't get out to a big lead that we see Marcus Mariota and company midstream here for Philadelphia. Chris is a toggler. Was at first a toggler between 5.5 and 5, and now it's a toggler between 5.5 and 6. You're sitting at 5.5 right now.
Well, they did take 6 off me. And let me tell you, the way when I opened this game, let me double check here. Okay, I did open 5.5. They laid it to me. I went to 6. They took the 6. I got a big play on the money line on the dog.
Okay.
From one of my really wise guys. And I thought, oh, man, this thing's going to start tumbling down. So I moved it pretty aggressively all the way down to 5. Now, they did lay me the 5, and they're kind of laying me the 5.5 a little bit, but mostly -5 plus 6. Like I said, pretty good play on the money line on the dog. The number didn't particularly move his way like I think he thought it would. But he is a guy that I have to respect. He's a really good handicapper and maybe a pretty nice-sized bet on the Giants plus $2. And I think he can get even better than $2 right now, but that's what he took.
Eagles scrambling, no question about it. And the Giants would love nothing more than to knock them into the second spot, right? So, but I think this is another example, Jeff, to your point about maybe it's a play on the first half. rather than the game itself. So,
well, I like the Giants.
But to your example before, right, with the Atlanta game against Tampa a year ago, right? Maybe it's Eagles in the first half and the Giants in the second.
For what it's worth, I don't care if the Eagles are playing their guys the whole way. I like the Giants in this game with the way the Eagles have looked. It feels like it's impending doom for what is happening with them, where they won all those close games, 10-1. The Niners smacked them around. Okay. Fine, the Niners are really good. They're the best team in the NFL. Then they get smacked by Dallas. Okay, Dallas is great at home. And then these last 3 weeks have been all right. It's not just that they lost to two really good teams. It's that they're in trouble themselves. Where you let Drew Lock go 90 yards on you at the end of the game to lose that game. Quite frankly, we talked about this. If Tyrod Taylor starts that whole game on Christmas Day, I think the Giants win that game outright. Mm-hmm. And then you lose to Arizona, who's 4 wins on the season. So
that's another thing we talked about. There's like 3 good backups, what I call good backups in the NFL.
Yeah.
I'd say Gardner Minshew.
Okay.
Who's the other one we talked about? I can't remember now. I feel like
this Taylor was one.
But Tyrod Taylor is the other one.
Is one of them, yeah.
Pardon me, who was the other one?
Tyrod was.
Tyrod was the third. We said, there's 3 legit good backups in this league. But Tyrod Taylor, I would definitely put in that category. I'm getting a brain freeze right now. But those guys are guys who you would say, you could win with them. Browning from Cincinnati.
No, I mean, what we've seen from Browning, he has played well.
Yeah, he's played well. He's been up and down, of course, as we expected, but he's still a legit backup quarterback.
Those are all
good backup quarterbacks. So I think right now Tyrod Taylor definitely in that conversation is a very good backup. As much as we love the Tommy DeVito,
that was
Jeremy Lin story.
It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, he's a very Jeremy Lin-ish kind of thing. But I think Tyrod Taylor's their best answer, and I think they do have a pretty good chance. Like I said, the guy who bet me the dog on the money line, it's a guy I highly respect. He didn't take a good price. He guessed wrong there, but he is a good handicapper.
This game a couple of weeks ago, or going into that 3-game, the end of the season, Giants, Cardinals, Giants was double digits. Yeah,
14.
Yeah, the look-ahead number was.
And look, for the Eagles, I don't know what's going to happen. They could win this week, and the light bulb could come back on, and maybe they get a run. But it is, maybe they win the game in Tampa or New Orleans or Atlanta, whoever wins at the ridiculous division. But they aren't beating anyone who's any good with the way they're playing right now. Yeah. They have to go to Dallas or San Francisco. Good luck. May not be enough points to lay in that type of game with the way they've been going.
They would need an awfully big turnaround.
Yeah, and need to fix things that I don't think are fixable at this point. You brought up Jake Browning. Let's go there. This is a game that's actually meaningless for everybody. The Browns are locked in. So Jeff Driscoll, remember him? He starts.
Joe Flacco to rest.
Yes, Joe Flacco gets to rest because the Browns have a playoff spot. What a world. By the way, this will be Cleveland's 5th starter, which they will be the first team in NFL playoff history to make it there with 5 starting quarterbacks in one season.
Wow.
And this one looks like the best.
Flacco, number 4 was the number. That was the number. Chris, so it's the backups for Cleveland. Browning and company. Cincinnati, in all honesty, Cincinnati next year is going to be a team that a lot of people thought maybe a little regression this year. I don't think they expected the Burrow injury, but they're going to be the team next year that I think a lot of people will say, all right, last place schedule, Burrow's healthy, Browning stays, you have a good backup if Burrow were to get hurt. They're going to be the team on the up and up. But for this one, there's 7, total 37, Chris. There is some 7.5 in the market on this game. I would imagine that if anything, after you open 5 and now all the way to 7, if anything, it may just go up at this point.
I see some 7.5s in the market.
Yeah.
It has gone up. We have a little bit of +7, fortunately, earlier in the week that put us at 6.5. That Cleveland defense, man, I'm not sure who all is going to be in the lineup, but that's a pretty darn good defense. I don't know. It would be very, very difficult for me to lay 7 with the Bengals here. Just thinking Cleveland, if you're out on the field, you're going to be hustling, you're going to be playing, you're going to be hitting, and that's a mark of a very good defense, which is exactly what Cleveland has.
I think as we get further or closer to Sunday, you're going to see more. Cooper, Amari Cooper, Ford, Myles Garrett, to your on Chris.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're going to rest up probably if not everybody, close to everybody, and then again, you might see some starters for the first quarter, like the third week of the NFL preseason type situation. So, again, the first halves are one thing, games are another, and second halves are an entirely different set of circumstances for this week 18.
Well, also too, if the Bengals win this game, the entire AFC North goes over 500 this year.
Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah,
which would be the first time that's happened since they went to the 4-team division.
Good, it's good. Yeah.
Pretty incredible.
Strong.
If that
Great
strong division, and also
great division.
Kind of shows that if Joe Burrow, I know Browning's been good, but you have to imagine if Burrow stays healthy, Cincinnati would have been made in the postseason, even with how Browning has played.
Listen, the way Mahomes kind of come back to earth a little bit, I don't know how much you blame the surroundings, but Burrow's got to be in the discussion as the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, look, Mahomes is still the best.
He is the best.
Burrow, going into the year again, and didn't play out that way because of the injury.
No.
I thought that the market had Buffalo and Cincinnati reversed, where I thought Cincinnati should have been treated as the higher-end team than Buffalo. But, again, when the quarterback gets hurt, it's a whole different ball game for the Bengals, who, again, last place schedule with Joe Burrow back next year, dangerous for the rest
Mark that,
of the
stick
NFL.
that in your back pocket.
We take that into consideration for
absolutely.
the regular season wins.
Yeah, no, look, if that number comes in right on the season win total, I already know I'm betting their season win total over next year. Assuming that they're going to have to replace T. Higgins because he's going to leave to get a big contract somewhere else. But we'll see how it plays out. So many good wide receivers in this draft. All right, Ryan's Bears. Let's go there. The big one at 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 Pacific. Green Bay's in a winning second consecutive year where the Packers, who last year, as we know, lost to Detroit in this exact same spot on Sunday night. Now they get the Bears, and look, there are a lot of parallels to that game last year, where the Bears are playing some really good football right now.
Justin Fields,
and
right.
Quite frankly, this should have been a game where the Bears are playing for a playoff spot.
It should be winning in for both of them.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It should be winning in for both, but the Bears had the 3 collapses that threw them out. 3, Chris, with a 45 on this. I think the number is perfect, personally.
I don't want to hear that.
I think
because we were at -2.5, plus 3.5. This game comes 3.
I think again. I know Vinny loves when I say this, but I thought you open 3. I thought that was the right number. I get why people bet Green Bay early. I get why people bet Chicago at 3.5. And now, again, I think Green Bay by 3 is your most logical result. Sorry, guys.
To torture us.
Sorry, guys.
If you have a crystal ball, I'm going to break it over your head if this game comes 3. That's the one thing I do not want to happen in this game. So I got a ton of business both ways here. I really do. And I can see, unfortunately, Jeff, I kind of agree with you. 3 does look like the perfect number here. You can make a case either way for both teams. Green Bay playing pretty good, but so are the Bears. I mean, they're playing well. So I don't know. And by the way, I do like Fields. I think they should keep Fields. That's one man's humble opinion. I know they could kind of restart with a rookie contract if they go through the draft. But I think Fields is actually pretty good. And if I were them, I would rather use some of that draft capital to maybe enhance a little depth in the roster. I'd still go after Marvin Harrison, but I'd try to get some depth elsewhere in that roster, and I think they could be okay.
They have a very interesting offseason ahead, especially with all these quarterbacks. And look, if Michael Penix Jr. has a big game on Monday night, it's another guy who can possibly move himself into the top 10. You already have 3 guys who we know are going in the top 5, with Jaden Daniels being that third name that has worked his way into a top 5 projection. Going to be an interesting call. But for this one this weekend, Vinny, Ryan mentioned it earlier. It is the Bears Super Bowl, basically. And here you go, an opportunity to knock your biggest rival, who has tortured you for years, out of the playoffs for the second consecutive year.
The guy that tortured you, though, was in.
Oh, I know. He's He's
in
coming up with
he's in New
interesting
Jersey.
theories on shows now. Yes, I know.
Yeah. There's a few of these from 2.5 to 3.5, and as the smile gets bigger on your face. You asked me the other day about Fields. I think the thing about it is this: they have to pay him, but with all that draft capital, if you were to not keep him, I don't care who you draft next year, you're starting over again, right? And again, it's very difficult anymore for the expectations for these rookies, these first round quarterbacks to come into the league and save a franchise, and again going in with first and second year coaches, young or first time head coaches who owners expect to be Andy Reid right off the bat. I mean, it's unrealistic. So again, that's it. By the way, Ryan, you're a Bears fan. Would you, as a Bears fan, keep him or keep him? Okay,
yeah,
there you go.
How about Eberflus? I mean,
Well,
I think the players.
They hate the offensive coordinator.
The offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
But I will say this: it's for them. It's all or nothing for me. It's either you get rid of the quarterback and the coach and start fresh with everybody, or you keep Eberflus. Ryan, I don't think they're getting rid of Getsy, even though I agree with you, and keep Fields. And we talked about this last week.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean just, hey, we're bringing Justin Fields back for 2024. It's we're giving Justin Fields the regular standard quarterback contract.
Okay,
at this point.
see, that's where we're going to disagree.
Okay.
You have to, why do you have to go $50 million?
So
Because
the only alternative that I could see here is you pick up the 5th-year option, you let him play it out, and then if he busts, you know what? If you did this draft right, you're going to have another top end of someone else's pick, and you can move up in the next draft. So
that's why I don't think you have to go $50 million.
So I will say this. Just want to throw one thing out that is kind of compares to what happened last year in this spot for Green Bay, where Detroit was the team that was steamed this offseason. They were the team with the higher win total. They're the division favorite. I just wonder if Chicago won't be the division favorite next year because most of the Lions will be back.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wonder if the Bears win this game, end 8-9 with playing their best football on the back end, how that messes with the season win totals and those make-miss playoff odds for next year.
Well,
because that's the team everyone's going to be all over, like they were Detroit this year, where, look, they got it right with the Lions.
Yeah. Well, how do they use their draft capital, right?
Oh, exactly.
That's gonna greatly impact it because they've got a lot of draft capital. So.
I know we still have a Super Bowl to get to and all that fun stuff, but I'm already thinking of some of these teams that are already missed, that are out for next year to see, hey, their teams I'm going to be pinpointing in these win total markets that come up in the middle of the summer. Seattle and Arizona's next. I can already tell you this. The Cardinals have been significantly better than I thought they would be, regardless of what their record ends up. I thought they would win maybe 2 games at most. Since Kyler Murray's come back, they've not only not looked like the worst team in the NFL, they've looked like a regular mediocre football team. Hey, maybe this is a 6-7 win team with Kyler Murray healthy. Chris, you opened 3. This is another. You have a lot of togglers this week, guys.
Yes.
A lot of them. You opened 3, down to 2.5, back to 3, 2.5, now sitting at 3. I'll be honest with you. I like Arizona outright, personally. I think the Cardinals are going to win this game outright, send Seattle into what will be a very uncomfortable offseason for that franchise.
A lot of business on this game. Side, total, money line, the whole ball of wax. Listen, everybody knows I've never been a Kyler Murray fan. Still not.
Right.
He's played a lot better than I anticipated. And I got to tell you, it'd be very tough for me to bet Seattle laying points on the road here in this spot. I think Arizona is playing well. And that being said, if I was out there betting this week, I would not play this game. I'd lay off this one. Too tough.
I believe ownership has said they are planning on sticking with Kyler Murray.
The report that I saw last, which was about a month ago, is that Kyler Murray and this new coaching staff have gotten along great.
Yeah.
And Arizona, even though they are going to be picking at the top of the draft, not huge fans of those quarterbacks. So they're as of now, that is right.
Arizona in recent years with a different coaching staff has, they've not hesitated on going back to back years, right, with quarterback. I'm not so sure they're going to do it this year. And that said, I think Murray tries to make a point. This is a difficult spot for the Seahawks. And when you look at the Cardinals and the way, one thing we've noticed about the Cardinals is that they've played hard all year. This is again the classic example of players and coaches forget about tanking. It's not even on their radar. It's not in their vocabulary. So this is a game here where if you are thinking of the Cardinals here, I don't know if you're not going to get. I don't think you're going to get 3.5, but I could see that money line action coming in on the dog here.
I would just forego the points this week. It kind of feels like if Seattle wins, they'll find a way to. The game will either land 3, or Seattle will win and cover
again with the game falling 3.
But I just like Arizona out. That loss last week to Pittsburgh was just a soul-sucking gut punch for Seattle, where they got it all back. They survived Geno being out with the win against Philadelphia. It was all there for them. And you know what? Pittsburgh was the clear right side all day in that game. And here Seattle is needing help now. And I don't even know if they're going to help themselves here in this one against Arizona. All right. I want to be quick on this one.
Why? It's your team.
Exactly.
Belichick he's got the flu.
Does he?
That's what the word out of New England was today. That
Belichick will beat the Jets one last time under the weather then. New England's 1.5, total's 30.5, second lowest total of the year, Chris.
I don't have one dime bet on either side.
That is interesting. That just shows how bad this game is. Also, the weather may play a factor here because there's potential for heavy snow and 25-mile-an-hour winds. In
I have quite a few dimes on the total under.
Yeah, there you go.
So as far as the two sides, I don't think anybody even knows they're playing, but they know it's going to be a low-scoring game. So I got money on the under, but that's about it. That's all that we got.
I mean, yeah, this 32 down to what, 30.5.
I'm at 30.5.
Somebody will find something in this game, but all indications are this will be one of the, if not the lowest handled game on the board.
Yeah. Not a bad spot to tease the dog up, though.
Yeah.
I think
7.5.
I think the Patriots are winning this game.
Okay.
Because
they always do.
Because they always exactly. Thank you. It would be 16 consecutive against the Jets. Last time the Jets beat them, Week 16, 2015. Ryan Fitzpatrick was the quarterback for the Jets.
This is Belichick's last game, guys, as a member of the
Patriots, yes, I believe it is. But I do not believe it's his final game ever because I do think, I don't know where, but he will be a head coach in the NFL next year. I do believe that. But not in New England.
With full control, GM too?
There's one place that I think could give him full control.
Washington?
Bingo. And I think it would be a horrible mistake by Washington.
I do too. That coach, general manager, it only worked with Belichick when he had Steve wound up at Kansas City.
Scott Pioli.
Scott Pioli. It only worked when he had Scott Pioli.
And look, it also helped that he had Tom Brady.
Yeah. Well, then look at Scott Pioli, what he's done at Kansas City. Built a hell of a team.
Let's keep rolling here. This is an interesting one because Jacksonville is everything to play for. Win, you win the division. Lose, you need a whole bunch of help. But they'll know if they can even lose and still get in because if Pittsburgh wins, then that path is shut off. We don't know who Trevor Lawrence is going to play or not yet. We don't know. It's questionable. Game time decision, according to Doug Peterson earlier today. We do know Will Levis is not going to play for Tennessee. We know Ryan Tannehill is starting. Levis' season is over after that foot injury he suffered early in that game in Houston last week. Chris, you were as low as 3.5, as high as 5.5.
Yeah.
You're at 4. That kind of just shows how I feel about this game. I have no idea. I really have no clue.
Well, the bettors don't either because, I got money at every one of those numbers.
Yeah.
Money both ways at almost every one of those numbers. So they don't know what's the players don't know what the hell's going on. I will say this, though. I still love Mike Vrabel. I think he's a hell of a coach. And I think this team comes in strong. And let's just say this, plays their hearts out. And I don't know if they win this game or not, but I think they play hard.
Well, this more likely than not, we know it's going to be the last game for Tannehill in Nashville.
Yeah.
But more likely than not, the final time Derrick Henry plays for the Titans.
I think so.
Free agent at the end of the year. Would be shocked if Tennessee gives him a big contract. Mm-hmm. Also, too, with New England opening up, I know everyone talked about, hey, the Steelers might trade Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. I'm
Robert Kraft. I'm calling Tennessee ownership and saying, hey, what does it take for me to get Mike Vrabel here to coach my team? I'm with you. I know this year has gone poorly, but the man is a great football coach.
Terrific coach.
If you watched his press conference this week talking about how his disdain for losing speaks to exactly what you guys are talking about. And, we know Levis is out. Lawrence, the key is, look, I don't think it's the ankle as much as, or the knee as much as it is. It's his throwing shoulder. That's the key here. The Jags may get Kirk back at wide receiver, which would be so. It's simple. They win, they're
Post
in
playoff game
as division champs. But you play for Vrabel and you're not out there going through the motions. So points valuable here. And we came on the air. This game was 3.5. It's up to 4. So
this was
I think
one
money
for the games that had at least a side with a ton to play for. Yeah. This was the one I crossed off immediately because can't do anything until I see if Trevor Lawrence plays, and I have no idea what version of Trevor Lawrence I'm getting anyway, even if he does play. Mm-hmm. So complex game. You are right. I know Tennessee's going to play hard, especially after last week, which was an abject disaster in that game in Houston for them. And again, sentimental value with Derrick Henry. Probably this is the last time as a Titan. I think there is something to that, at least just a little bit. All right, let's go to the game just down the road from us here. 4:25 Eastern, 1:25 local here in Vegas. The Raiders and the Broncos. If we got the right results over the last few weeks, this game could have been very important. Instead, it means absolutely nothing other than for who's going to finish second behind Kansas City in the AFC West. Winner of this game will be the second-place finisher and get, in essence, the harder schedule next year because of winning this game. Jarrett Stidham against Aiden O'Connell, as we all expected before the year, guys. Raiders are 3, total's 37. Chris, this was you had 2.5 earlier in the week. Again, another toggler between 2.5 and 3. I feel like there is something on the line for the Raiders this week because if they win, I would believe Mark Davis is going to be more inclined to hire Antonio Pierce full-time. If they go from looking like the disaster they were under McDaniels to finishing in second place in the division, I think that buys Pierce gets Pierce the permanent job here, Chris. And with what has been said throughout the last few months, Vontae Adams earlier this week flat out saying, we want Antonio Pierce to get the permanent job.
Oh, yeah.
As the players. I think the Raiders are actually
They're playing for him.
They're playing for Pierce and playing for him to get the permanent job. I like Vegas in this game.
This is one of the sides I like because I think for pretty much all the reasons you said, I think there is incentive on their side. I'm not sure there's any incentive on the side of Denver after some of the shakeups that they've had. I don't know how much they want to play for Peyton. I'd throw that out the window. But I think they really want to play for Antonio Pierce. And I think they will come out strong here, and this is definitely one of the games I like.
I'm not saying this is going to be the game necessarily that was the Chargers a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you right now, I agree with exactly what you're saying about Antonio Pierce. The players, they love him, they want him, and they're gonna go full out for him here. The Broncos, and I've got to tell you, Peyton has not endeared himself to those players. I think in their minds, if he threw Russell Wilson under the bus, who's making all that money and who's the quarterback and the quote-unquote leader of the team, whether he deserved it or not, but to publicly throw him under the bus like that, those players are like, you know what? If he did it to Russell Wilson, he's not going to back me. I just think I think he's lost that locker room to a great extent.
I will say this for Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham could be playing for the starting job next year in this game.
Well, he's going to be running for his life too.
I mean, again, I'm just saying, like
that I can tell you.
The fact that there was even a willingness to do this kind of speaks that Payton must think that there's at least something there with Stidham, whether that he's a backup long term or maybe his starter week 1 next year. Denver's going to be in the marketplace for a quarterback, but
it could get the Panics. I mean, that's possible.
Panics, Bo Nix, because they'll be picking in the mid-teens. Let's see how that plays out. But I think we're all in agreement here on the Raiders side this weekend. All right, Minnesota and Detroit. Vikings can still make the playoffs. They need to win. Seattle needs to lose. New Orleans needs to lose, and Green Bay needs to lose. Not as implausible as some would think. Minnesota, they really made a big-time error last week. And I don't know if they would have won the game anyway. But to start their 4th-best quarterback in a game they had to have was a gigantic blunder.
Yes.
At least they knew to put Mullins in, but it was too late at that point.
By halftime.
It was too late. It was too late at that point to do that. Detroit, everyone talked about it all week. I don't need to rehash what happened. We all know what happened to them at the end of that Dallas game. I am just curious from Campbell's perspective of this game is before the Dallas game.
Yes.
So we don't know. They won't know, hey, we don't know if Dallas is losing or not. I expect Campbell, these guys, to play the whole game and play the game in normal effort. And quite frankly, with a normal effort, Detroit, I think it should be way more than 3.5. So I like the Lions in this game at that number, Chris.
Well, they're taking the Vikings.
I know they are. I don't agree with the market.
I mean, the market is disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
Which, believe me, if the market won all the games, bookmakers would be broke. So you're perfectly entitled to disagree with the market. I can tell you that. And I kind of am with you on this one. I think after what happened last week in Detroit, or with Detroit, I think they come out and play hard again this week. Yeah. I think that why would they lay down? I don't see that happening.
Did they lay it early, Chris?
Vinny have been all over the place in this game.
I think
because I was up to 5.
5.5 maybe.
4.5. They took 3.5. They laid 3.5. They took 4. I
think we're going to need that Viking money at some point because I could see this one going back up for the reasons you guys mentioned.
Yeah, and Minnesota, in all honesty, like this season for them, because there's numbers out there to dictate this team is better than the team was a year ago. You just feel like if Kirk Cousins didn't get hurt, we'd be talking about both of these teams are sitting starters because they're both wrapped into the playoffs. Yeah. Really does feel like that Minnesota, the reason they're going to be on the outside looking in is solely because of the Kirk Cousins injury, where I think that they would have probably been where the Rams are right now, where they're locked in to the 6. They'd have an extra 3 wins, be 10-6, and there you go. I really do think that with the way that quarterback position has gone there in Minnesota because of the injury to Kirk Cousins. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We get back. We got 3 games to go. Tampa plays for an NFC South title. Easton Stick versus Blaine Gabbert, as we all expected before the year. Oh, and by the way, that big game in South Beach. Miami and Buffalo, the winner, gets the AFC East. Those games are next. Sports by the Book, South Point Studio.
We work hard to provide you with all the conveniences that will make you come back again and again. Things like free parking and easy checkout from the TV in your room. While you're here, be sure to use the club card to get all the perks, comps, free meals, and cash we want to send your way. It's simply the best players' reward system in Las Vegas. Membership is quick, easy, and free, and you can start earning points for cash and comps immediately. Go to the club booth to sign up today. Also take advantage of our business center, located right by the Benny Binion statue. Print boarding passes or enjoy the convenience of our FedEx, UPS, and U.S. mail services. Just another way we're here to serve. Also during your stay, don't forget the convenience of room service. You can enjoy a delicious meal in your pajamas from the comfort of your room. Just call extension 77085 or use the room service function on the TV in your room. And if you need a ride to or from the airport, our free airport shuttle can be scheduled with the front desk at extension 73139. Please give at least a 24-hour notice to reserve. For information on strip transportation, please call our Bell Desk. Finally, remember us for your next business meeting, conference, or banquet. From our 80,000 square foot exhibit hall to 70,000 square feet of convention space, which includes our grand ballroom, we have everything you need. Our getaway location and commitment to exceptional value and service have cemented our popularity with business communities around the country. Thank you for staying with us. Whether for business or pleasure, we're glad you're here. And we're here to serve. South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa, where there's something for everyone, all under one roof. Enjoy your stay.
Welcome back into Sports by the Book here at the South Point studio. I'm Jeff Parles. It's Football Friday. Chris Andrews is here. Vinny Magliulo is here. Let's get to these final three games here on the card for this final week of the regular season. It's pretty amazing
how fast this season.
Just how you go. Just blink your eyes.
Say that every year.
Say it every year.
Every year.
And you end up now with extra playoff games at least, which make it a whole lot of fun as well. So let's go Tampa and Carolina. Baker Mayfield's going to play after suffering a rib injury at the end of the loss last week to New Orleans. The number's 4.5 right now, Chris. Look, the Panthers are a mess. David Tepper's throwing drinks on opposing fans.
Unbelievable. I'm embarrassed to say he's from Pittsburgh.
Pretty embarrassing what has transpired for Carolina. But the folks have bet Carolina this week from 5.5 to 4.5. Hey, look, Chris said, I don't know what to do with this game because Carolina, I was going to say, they made it turn the corner in the Green Bay game and then came out with one of the most pathetic displays of offense I've ever seen. And I've watched the Jets all 16 games this year.
A guy texted me, Carolina has not had a fourth quarter lead all year.
That's correct.
They've only won 2 games on the last play of the game.
Correct.
I mean, to me, it's Tampa or nothing. I mean, I said it in the preseason when I saw this kid play, Bryce Young I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That boy, this guy just doesn't have it. You take these little guys who are great in college. The pro game is just different. Kyler Murray's a little better than I thought he was, at least this year. Still not on board with this guy. But I said at the beginning, I said it last year, I said it all through last year. I would take C.J. Stroud over Bryce Young, and I think
you've been proven correct through 1 year.
I've been proven correct, and if you have a choice between the bigger guy and the littler guy, you got to take the bigger guy.
I suspect this game will go up again. I think it'll be support for the Bucs, to Chris's point, and the Bucs playing for their playoff for the division, right, and to host a game on top of it. If they
host Philadelphia more likely than not.
So,
yes.
Look, I mean, that's a rematch too. That game would be right.
Week 3, Philly went there and
right?
smoked them.
Yeah, they did. It was a different Philly team, and this is a different Buccaneer team right now as well. So. Again, you talk about how teams. I think that first month we talked about it, how teams are still trying to sort things out, and again they've gone in different directions. But I suspect here, even though this is an early game, I think we'll see continued support for the Buccaneers, especially tomorrow night.
I will ask you this, Chris: where let's say Tampa wins this game, they play Philly, 4-5 matchup.
Yeah,
Philly would be favored, but that's a field goal less than it would have been if it was a month ago, in all honesty.
And these are very much subject to change. I got to tell you, it'd be like a 2-point favorite.
Yeah.
Philly.
Philly, a 2-point favorite.
I think that's right.
That's according to my power ratings right now, which, we have a week of adjustment to go.
It's interesting because remember last year where Tampa won the division at 8-9 a year ago. And I just kept fooling myself into thinking, at some point they're going to turn it on. At some point they're going to turn it on. And then I'm going to turn it on to the fact that they lost by 30, basically, in that game to Dallas in the playoffs last year. Despite Brett Maher, that was a game where Brett Maher missed 5 extra points, and Dallas still won the game.
I don't remember.
Still won the game comfortably. But
it's ringing a bell, but I don't know.
Yeah, I have to double check that now. But, this NFC South now for the last 2 years, like at least when Brady got there in 2020, New Orleans still had Drew Brees and were still a legitimate power at that point. 2021, the Bucs were a legitimately good team who lost in that ridiculous playoff game to the eventual Super Bowl champions. These last 2 years have been as abysmal as any division I can remember for a multi-year stretch. I know we've had under 500 champions in divisions. They usually do pretty well in their first playoff game, by the way. But this division this year, where if Atlanta had any semblance of a quarterback, they would have won this division, I think, relatively easily. New Orleans had the easiest schedule in the NFL. And by the way, it played out to be the easiest schedule in the NFL, and they're lucky to win 9 games. It's just a power-rated division, just terrible all the way through. Oh, and by the way, you have the worst team in the NFL by a wide margin in this division as well. For Tampa's sake, thankfully, they get to play them this last week. Oh, man. Bucks 4.5 against Carolina. All right, Chargers and Chiefs. You had Blaine Gabbert against Easton Stick ready for this one?
All the way from the beginning of the year.
All the way from week one?
Circled.
Oh, maybe if Kansas City and the Chargers already had playoff spots locked up, maybe. But the Chiefs are locked. They can't go below 3. It's where they are. They're the 3 seed in the AFC. If they win a round 1 playoff game, more likely than not, Patrick Mahomes will finally have to play a road playoff game in his career. He won't play at all in this game. No shock. We know what Andy Reid's tendencies have been in these games. When the Chiefs have had stuff locked up, he sits his guys. That's what it's always been. It even dates back to his days in Philadelphia. Chris, you're 3.5 on this one. Chargers with Easton Stick and the Peanut Butter Man coaching the team one last time at least. Favored in this one against the Chiefs backups.
I always say the Chargers tend to do Chargery things. And some of those Chargery things are looking great on occasions. I think that's going to be one of those days for the Chargers.
Okay.
I think they come out and smoke a Kansas City team that really doesn't care. Andy Reid has shown he's not going to play anybody. And like I said, the Chargers do Chargery things. And you see this number at 3.5. If the wise guys like this game, it would be at 3. They obviously don't. So I'm gonna go with the market on this one, and I like laying the 3.5 rather than taking it. Gonna go with the Chargers.
Probably gonna go up when you think of it. I mean, Kelsey is listed right there as questionable right now, but I can't.
Shocked if
I can't see Kelsey playing. I can't see a lot of that defense playing. And again, you talk about fighting for jobs. If this Charger team may have more guys fighting for jobs.
Sure.
Than just about anyone. So
well, it would also be you mentioned the Chargery stuff. It would be very Chargers to mess up the draft pick. I mean, I mean,
throw that in on Chargery things to do.
Chargers win a meaningless game against the Chiefs backups to go from pick 6 to pick 9. I mean, that's well in the Chargers lexicon.
Yeah.
So. Actually, it actually looks like the furthest they can fall is 8.
8.
So,
yeah, okay.
Regardless, but look, I have nothing on this game for what it's worth. When Kansas City has sat these guys in the past. Remember, the first time we saw Mahomes was in a situation like this. His first start was the final week of the year.
Alex Smith.
Yeah, when Alex Smith was still there. Mahomes played that Week 17 game in Denver, and he looked awesome in that game.
Yeah.
It was just
I don't think this is the same situation.
Well, you don't think Blaine Gabbert's going to do the same thing?
I do not.
You don't think
I do not.
Blaine Gabbert. Amazing he's still in the league. Back in his home state of Missouri as well. All right, let's go to the game. Game 272. The final one of the year. 455 and 456 on your betting cards. Miami, Buffalo. The winner wins the East. If Miami loses, they're the 6. If Buffalo loses, if the market is right, Buffalo would be out. If the market is right. Now, Chris, I just want to ask you this before we get into this game. Have we ever seen anything like this where you have a team where Buffalo is a top 5 power-rated team, where if they win, they're the 2 seed, and honestly, that lines up perfectly with being a top 5 power-rated team. But if they lose, and Pittsburgh holds up their end of the bargain on Saturday afternoon, Buffalo's out. And this is a team that right now, in basically all books, including yours, is the second favorite to win the AFC right now. A top five short odds to win the Super Bowl. And we don't even know if they're going to be in the dance right now.
I've been doing this a long time. And I don't know that I've seen this situation before. I don't know. I'd have to really look up my history.
Was it New England? Oh.
When they had...
What, the year Brady got hurt?
No.
The year they had Castle?
I thought they didn't New England have like
they had 1 year early,
or a 10 or 11, or even 11 something.
Well, the year Brady got hurt, they missed the playoffs with double-digit wins.
I think they were 11-5 or 10-6 that year.
Yeah, they won 10 or 11 games. And
Miami won the division.
Yeah. I don't remember a situation like this. I don't. Like I said, somebody's out there that's listening might text in something. Oh, you remember in 1978 or something like that? Okay, I don't. But I can't remember a situation like this.
New England was 11-5 in 2008 and missed.
They missed.
They were 11-5.
Yeah. So, I mean, here you have a situation where the Bills could go 10-7, and if Pittsburgh wins, they're 10-7, but they have the tiebreakers and they would wind up in. So, look, this is going to be the game of the day. Everything is going to be going to it. It's going to really set up the Washington-Michigan game on Monday as well. Springboard there. And again, taking 3 and laying 2.5 with the Bills. So, but what goes to it is certainly going to impact how the number moves. The total's down right now, but I suspect that will go up as well. I think, Chris, right? I mean, people are going to love to
probably
for points.
Final game of the year over.
Points in this game.
Ideal conditions in Miami.
Now the question is, both teams are injured, have injuries, right? Which everybody does at this time. But when you look at it, the Bills have had to deal with the injuries for the better part of the season compared to the Dolphins have had to deal with the injuries for the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Right. So, difficult at this time of year. And typically, it's interesting too, right? Typically, this time of year, this second game is in Buffalo, and the first one is in Miami, where there's more of a home field. But you know what? The Bills have played. Look, they went into Kansas City, and I don't care about the controversy and everything with the offensive offsides. But whatever, they won that game. They've done what they've had to do in the last month, so they've earned the right to be the favorite here. And I think you're going to continue to see both sides get some support here. But I think what's going to it and the fact that it's the primetime game is going to certainly impact how this game moves. Well, it's going to be a big decision either way.
And again, just going back to what we were talking about at the beginning here, with again a top 5 power rated team that does not have a playoff spot clinched and could very easily miss when this is all said and done.
They could.
If Buffalo loses and they don't make the playoffs, I'll just ask you this, Chris. Baltimore has to be adjusted in those future markets because then you're at a point where, all right, you look at the AFC 7 teams, the other 6 teams then.
Yeah.
It would be Miami as the 2 seed who are dealing with cluster injuries right now, and their second best defensive player in Chubb is done with the torn ACL. Kansas City, we've talked about how they're flawed all year. Jacksonville may not even have Trevor Lawrence. And then you're dealing with Joe Flacco, and the Colts are Houston at that point, and then Pittsburgh. Like, at that point, Chris, Baltimore, you're still getting a price, obviously, to win the AFC right now. If Buffalo misses the playoffs altogether, I would make the argument that Baltimore should be the flat minus 110 to win the AFC.
Well, it should be odds on after that.
Should be odds on, 100%.
Because the number 2 seed will be gone under that scenario.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's a very good point, and I think that's something that we'll certainly have to look at. That's why we're going to close all these things at kickoff tomorrow of the Pittsburgh game.
Yeah.
So you want to get your futures in? Get them in now.
Yeah, and again, I'll just ask you this right now, Chris. I know Kansas City's the 3rd favorite to come out of the conference right now. Power ratings wise, if Buffalo goes out, Baltimore is what, 4 points better than Kansas City right now?
Let me take a look. Baltimore, I think they might be a little more than
5.
that.
5.5, 5? Yeah.
I got them 5.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking about going from probably being a field goal in an AFC title game, maybe even short of a field goal against Buffalo, to north of a field goal against basically everyone left in the field.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you the truth, it might be more than 5.
No, 5. Yeah, I mean, well, they're going to be home, and it's one of the better home fields.
Well, at home, they'll be more
seven,
than 5.
yeah.
So it's going to be a touchdown.
Probably 7, yeah.
Full 7.
You're looking at a touchdown.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, do you have Baltimore hop San Francisco there, guys?
Baltimore higher than San Francisco?
Not yet, right?
I do.
Baltimore 1 point better than San Francisco.
1 point better.
Yes,
Okay.
same.
Hey, look, a pick'em Super Bowl would be pretty good if we got those.
It'd be great.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
All right, before we go for today, for Monday, for the college football playoff, Vinny, I know you mentioned this just to go through this. Props for this game. You'll have what type of props are you guys looking at?
Kind of our usual slate of props. Points for each team. First half and total for the game. We'll have a couple of players that we'll put out there for different kind of props. We'll see what's out there.
Alternate point spread.
Alternate point spreads, alternate totals, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you book it like an NFL playoff game, and folks are going to bet it that way.
Can I get Michigan minus 50.5 like Georgia got there on that last year?
I could probably get you a price for that. Yeah.
I don't want that for what it's worth.
I could probably get you that.
I would say that this game will be.
He's looking for 10,000 to 1 on Atlanta still.
Well,
you remember the old Bob Martin stuff.
You know what the? Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Guy came in, what the hell was his name? Rubio, was that his name? Oh shit, I can't remember. I'm gonna have to think of it. Anyway, he wanted to bet on himself to win the presidency. This is like 1960, going against JFK. And he says he wants to bet 50,000. What kind of price? Bob wrote him the ticket. Bob Martin, 50,000. I can't think of the guy's name. I knew him up in Reno too. Wrote him the ticket. And the guy says, "Well, this doesn't have a price on it." Bob told him, "At the end, you can write down any price you want."
Well, I was gonna say something that's better than the way I was gonna say it. It's like, because you're gonna end up with the money regardless if I'm betting the Falcons to win the Super Bowl, because they're not gonna win the Super Bowl. Kind of like whoever that was who thought he would win the presidency.
Yeah, Vinny, you know who this guy is too. I can't think of his name. I'll tell you what. When you see Joe Namath running off the field like this against the Colts, he's like right by him.
In Super Bowl III?
Yeah.
All right.
We'll have to go to the videotape.
Let's go to the videotape.
Yeah, I can't
Warner
think of the
Wolf.
guy's name.
Warner Wolf. Very good, Vinny. Very good. All right. That's Football Friday here for today, guys. We're back tomorrow at 8 in the morning. Full college basketball preview for a loaded, roughly 142 games.
Yes.
Tomorrow. Sean, all 142 got to be prepared for the show. No,
Get ready.
I'm joking. It might be more time than that.
Sleep here in the
but
studio
we'll
tonight.
also have our 2 NFL games tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh and Baltimore, Houston and Indy, and then we're back on Sunday as well. But tomorrow, myself, Alex White, 8 a.m. Pacific time for a big day in college hoops. Chris, Vinny, thank you as always.
Good job.
Good job, crew. Ryan, Sean, Jerry, and
Good
great
job,
work,
everybody.
as always. We'll see you next time on Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.